Welcome to Politics Unplugged in our first edition of 2017. I'm Anne Trujillo. We have a lot on our rundown today. We're less than 2 weeks away from the swearing in of a new president. And before we get to that, we're getting ready for a new legislative session right here in Colorado. The first session of the state's 71st General Assembly kicks off at the state capitol on Wednesday, a day before Governor John Hickenlooper gives his annual State of the State address. And joining us now to talk about what we may be able to expect during the session are Democratic Representative Becker, the majority leader in the House, and Republican Senator Chris Holbert, the majority leader on the Senate side of the state capitol. So thank you both for being here. Let's begin with you, Casey, because I know you've been tweeting saying transportation is a huge issue that has to be dealt with this year. I assume you both agree on this, but what exactly do you have planned?
Well, a lot of different groups of the last several years have been looking at transportation, the need for additional transportation funding. Our general fund doesn't fund transportation and has a lot of stresses on it. So we're really looking at a comprehensive statewide transportation funding solution. And the specifics, the specifics aren't worked out. All options are on the table, and it could be a few different potential sources, maybe a sales tax, maybe an income tax. The key thing is for us to find compromise, common ground between Republicans and Democrats, and then let the voters decide if it's something that they want to support.
I know we heard CDOT talk about widening I-25 down toward Monument. I know that's a huge issue, and they've talked about funding as well. Are those same issues, the sales tax, a possibility on the Republican side?
I think a standalone sales tax increase or income tax increase would be a real challenge for Republicans, and in the Senate, I question that would make it through. One of the things that gives me confidence, though, that we will find a solution is that there seems to be a positive reception to talking about tax simplification and possibly repealing one or two other taxes. Business personal property tax in Colorado costs businesses a significant amount of money outside of what they actually pay in the tax. And then we also look at the state share of gas tax, which is 22 cents on the gallon, and that's a dead or dying tax because of more efficient vehicles and hybrids, electrics that are going onto the roads that don't pay for gas, or at least not as much. So to find some way to come up with a better equation, offer the voters of Colorado a different equation they look at for personal or business use.
Of course, the gas tax hasn't been raised in years.
That's right. It's since 1992, and it's 22 cents. It's not indexed to inflation, and we've had such huge growth in Colorado since that time. The growth in vehicles miles traveled, VMT, is greater than what we're seeing as growth in the gas tax. So we are falling behind, and construction prices are increasing faster than inflation. So basically, the gas tax isn't keeping up.
Let's talk about construction defects. I know that this has been a priority. It's gone nowhere in the last couple of years. Can this be dealt with this year?
I'm very optimistic, and I've had some reporters say, well, leadership's always saying that we're going to get along and get things done. What gives me confidence is that there's a group of legislators from the House and the Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, who are sitting at a table talking to each other, challenging each other, working through these issues. There's also a very strong movement outside of the Capitol from a variety of business leaders who want that change. I think it's an exciting topic. Some reporters say, gosh, it's like talking about tort reform, but it really isn't. There are 20, 30-somethings in Representative Becker's district. There are those people in the district that I represent. It cuts across party lines. There are people who want to own a condominium, a townhouse, and right now the supply of that type of housing for multifamily owner-occupied scenarios is very close to zero. So we're hearing that pressure from across the political spectrum, and I'm optimistic that we're going to get something done.
You think this year will be different, though, really? I mean, with that, the legislative session always starts out with people optimistic about what will happen. Do you think it's feasible to get something done with construction defects?
It
and
is,
ultimately affordable housing, right?
Sure, exactly. It is. one more year that the issue's been out there. I know that there is a lot of desire to get it solved. And it really is one of those where the devil's in the details. It is an affordable housing issue, and so that's a top priority for Democrats. We are seeing, again, so much growth in the state. 250 people per day are moving to the state, and it does place a stress on our housing market. So we're looking at a bunch of affordable housing efforts. I'd like to see resolution on this, and I think a lot of others would, but we also want to make sure that people that buy condominiums are safe in terms of being able to have recourse if there's problems in their condominiums. We don't want to shortcut consumers.
I know that Governor Hickenlooper is term limited now, so is there additional pressure, do you think, from him because that he wants to get things done because, you know, he's done in 2018?
I think Governor Hickenlooper has always been a get things done kind of governor, so I don't think this year's any different in that regard.
And I credit the governor and his willingness to talk with us in the Senate. Right after leadership elections, he invited us down. We had a very open and cordial conversation. I believe that Governor Hickenlooper wants to make the best of his last 2 years, and that is another place where I find optimism and confidence that on transportation and construction defects. That we also look back on the prior 2 years. We had a Republican Senate and Democrat House and the same governor, and we know that in the governor's last 2 years we're going to have exactly that mix of power, and we get along more than people know. We
have less than a minute left. What are your personal priorities for this legislative session?
My personal priority is to make sure that we have a well-run caucus, a well-run floor. But the issues that are important to Boulder County, I think, are also issues that are important across the state. I live in Boulder County, but I represent Front Range communities and Western Slope. Everyone ultimately is concerned about affordable housing. That is a statewide issue. They want comprehensive transportation legislation, and they're also, you know, the same issues about clean air, clean water, and in my community in particular, a lot of concern about community safety and immigrants feeling safe.
I'm sure that's true for all districts, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your priorities?
Well, I'll be working on a bill for school safety and just asking how much training would be required for a person to be armed in a school environment. Right now we allow post-certified law enforcement to be armed there and also private security, but without any training. There's been bills in the past that asked could teachers be permitted to carry a weapon. And we have rural school districts that are moving in that direction through the private security and actually contracting with teachers. But I want to work with our county sheriffs and ask the question, how much training should be required, and allow people who pass that training with school districts that want to allow it, not forcing anything. But I think that school safety issue is one that we need to address.
Well, we look forward to seeing what's ahead in this legislative session, so thank you both for being here. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to talk about the minimum wage increase, a boost in pay for a lot of folks after you voted to raise it. We'll talk impact and who benefits most right after this.